Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, in the Divine's light we shall see, in the Divine's knowledge we shall know, in the Divine's will we shall realize. With my love and blessing, says our Divine Mother. Words of our Divine Mother from the collective works of our Divine Mother, Volume 14, topic The Soul, subtopic The Soul, the Psychic, under the parts of the being, page 352, question. Sweet Mother, what is soul and in what form does it exist in us? For this our Divine Mother says, the first form of the soul is a spark of light from the Divine. By evolution, it becomes an individualized being and then it can take the form it wants. Our Divine Mother says, the mind, the life, and the body must become and live what the soul knows and is. When one has an awakened soul, it is not easy to get rid of it, so it is better to obey its orders. Obey your soul. It alone has the right to govern your life. Psychic center is the luminous calm. It is made to govern the human being. Psychic center, luminous calm. It is made to govern the human being. The psychic gets its power of expression when it governs the whole being. The psychic power organizes the activities of the nature to make them progress. Under the psychic influence, all activity becomes balanced. The psychic influence compels the physical to turn towards the divine. Our Divine Mother says, let this house be a symbol of the psychic, the temple of the eternal divine presence. Live in the consciousness of the psychic center. Thus, your will express the divine's will alone, and your transformed being will then be able to receive and manifest the divine love. Our Divine Mother says, the center of the human being is the psychic, which is the dwelling place of the immanent divine. Unification means organization and harmonization of all the parts of the being, that is, your mental, vital, and physical, around the center, so that all activities of the being may be the correct expression of the will of the divine presence. Unless and until the whole of the individual consciousness is organized around the central divine presence, the moments are fugitive, although recurrent, and we cannot expect them to have any permanence. Nothing is permanent in a terrestrial being except the psychic, says our Divine Mother. A sadhak wrote that after bright periods of sadhana, dark periods returned again and again. For this, our Divine Mother says, this is a proof that your whole being is not united around the central psychic presence. This is a personal task that each individual must do for himself. The help is always there, but the effectivity of its action is in the measure of the receptivity and the conscious appeal. After all, it is a question of patience in the endeavor, says our Divine Mother. A human being is made of many different parts, and it takes time and conscious effort to harmonize and unify all these parts. When you surrendered, it is not the whole of your being that did so. Little by little, some other part that had not surrendered came to the surface, and the joy of the surrender vanished and was replaced by dullness and indifference. But after some time, this part also gets converted, and thus the happy condition comes back. Our Divine Mother says, "Your letter has just come, bringing me your problem, which, by the way, is the problem of the life of all human beings, especially when they have reached a certain degree of inner development, but are not yet on the summit of spiritual freedom through the unification of their being around their conscious soul. For it is the lack of unification which is the cause of all problems. One part of the being pulls one away, another pulls the other way. Sometimes one is stronger and gives a certain orientation to life. Sometimes it is the other, and then the orientation suddenly changes. And the result is an incoherence. And as it is the unsatisfied part which usually comes to the surface to express its want of satisfaction, so unless one is a sage, is never satisfied with the life one leads and always misses the life one could have led, whether in one direction or the other. In your case, says our Divine Mother, there is something more. As your soul remains very closely linked with my being, as the contact with the supramental consciousness grows more and more total and constant, it acts very strongly on your soul like an almost irresistible attraction. This is what happened in 1958. To conclude, says our Divine Mother, an easy and pleasant life can only satisfy the outer being. But what answers in the physical being to the soul's influence needs for its flowering a life more in conformity with the soul's needs and languishes when it cannot find it. Our Divine Mother says, it is because an individual is not made all of one piece, but of many different entities, which sometimes even contradicted each other. Some want the spiritual life, the others are attached to the things of this world. It is a long and difficult work to reconcile all these parts of your being and unify them. The force and light received by the most developed parts gradually spreads to the rest of the being by a process of assimilation. And during this period of assimilation, the progress of the parts that are in front seems to be interrupted. This is what our Lord Sri Aurobindo was speaking about, says our Divine Mother. In fact, says our Mother, in fact, all your different parts are correct in their argument, and the wisdom is to go deep enough in the consciousness to find the place where they meet and agree, completing one another rather than contradicting. As for the actual action, a smooth and harmonious working is generally better than the difficulties created by too rigid principles, but that also is not absolute. And the ideal condition is, at each occasion, to receive in the inner silence the guidance from above. Our Divine Mother says, with constant practice and goodwill, it becomes possible. The psychic inspiration alone is true. The psychic inspiration alone is true. All that comes from the vital and the mind is necessarily mixed with egoism and is arbitrary. One should not act in reaction to outer contact, but with an immutable vision of love and goodwill. Everything else is a mixture which can only have confused and mixed results and perpetuate the disorder. It is not the psychic being that suffers for personal reasons. It is the mind, the vital, and the ordinary consciousness of ignorant man. This is because the contact between the outer consciousness and the psychic consciousness is not well established. He in whom the contact has been well established is always happy. Our Divine Mother says, the psychic being works with perseverance and ardor for the union to be made an accomplished fact, but it never complains and knows how to wait for the hour of realization to come. The outer being, left to itself, is not very responsible. It is most often the plaything of the forces of nature, but the inner or the higher being, the deeper consciousness, is the master and builder of our destiny. That is why it is so important to discover this sovereign consciousness and unite with it in order to put an end to all the incoherences of life and all the conflicts of nature. Our Divine Mother says, to find the psychic, one must conquer the desires of the vital and silence the mind, and then make a sincere submission to the divine, of whom the psychic is the instrument in man. The inner contact with the psychic is a concrete and undeniable fact which imposes itself on all sincere consciousness. The psychic, says our Divine Mother, the psychic is always there and it is strong. It is the receptivity that is weak. The best way to get rid of the rule of the ego is to find the psychic being, instrument of the divine in human beings. Go deep into yourself, that is your heart region, and aspire steadily. The true meeting of the psychic is unmistakable. It is indispensable that each one finds his psychic and unites with it definitively. It is through the psychic that the supramental will manifests itself. Question, sweet mother, why is there this dark and idiotic personality in me? Does it lie hidden in everyone, or am I an especially a difficult case? For this our Divine Mother says, certainly you are not the only one. Many are like this. Only those who have centered their whole being around the conscious control of the psychic can cure themselves of it. When the inner state is ready for the next step, you will guide it directly or indirectly the way you wish. The next step, says our Divine Mother, the next step is finding your psychic being and uniting with it. The human being is made up of different parts, sometimes clearly separated. They can unite only when under the psychic influence and action. Persist in your endeavor and you're sure to succeed. My blessings are always there, says our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, what you seek is always there, ready for you. Let the psychic turn grow complete, and it will of itself bring you to that for which you aspire. The psychic is never depressed. The psychic is never depressed. I tell you, the psychic does not know depression because its nature is divine, and in the divine there is no depression. The psychic can observe with regret the stupidity of other parts of the being, but by its very nature, it is impossible for it to be depressed. In the psychic is the source of constant happiness. Psychic purity is the condition natural to the psychic. By its very nature, the psychic is calm. Psychic peace is spontaneous and knows no difficulties. Psychic prayer is spontaneous and fervent. Psychic offering is the spontaneous attitude of the psychic in relation to the divine. Psychic generosity gives for the joy of giving. Psychic perfection means to smile at everything, says our Divine Mother.